and welcome to the 148th episode of the Bottom Knitting Podcast. My name is Ramona. I'm a knitter from Toronto, and welcome to my corner of the crafting world. Today, I've got no FOs. I've got 2 works in progress and a potential new cast on. I'm not certain how it's going to work. I may have to restart it, so it might not be for this week. It might be for next week. I don't know. So, let's get started with... Let's go with my sweater. So the first project is my Rocket Tea by Ravelry. I had to think about it for a second. I'm making excellent progress on this. I broke into my second ball for the fingering base. Hold on. No. Oh, okay, this way. It always takes me a while. So, okay. Because when it lines up, it looks prettier. Close enough. So, that's where I've made it so far. So, I'm about 12 inches, I think. Thereabouts. So, last time we had seen, I was about there. And I managed to do 1, 2, maybe almost 2.5 repeats. So, pretty good. The yarn that I'm using for this is from the Knitting Loft. It's their Knitting Loft. It's the Knitting Loft house brand. In their boots base and their dust base in the colorway Paris Blue. Still loving it. Still enjoying and working on it every day. I managed to put in a good amount of work on it over the weekend, but I'll talk about it later. Yep, I actually pulled out one of my yarn cozies. Another yarn cozy, and I put my other one in there. Let's put this in. I'm actually kind of tempted to put my my barber poles on it to see whether or not I consider it long enough to fit me. I'll have to see. I'll try to remember to do that today. So my next project is my Ladies of LaBelle Socks by Alex Anders. Yeah, there we go. So let me show it off how far I have made it. I've done a pretty good amount of progress on this one. I really do think so. So I am at this point. So last time you had seen, I had done maybe like 2 rows of the cuff. So I started on the foot. I've done maybe, did I do 1 repeat yet? If not 1 repeat, close to 1 repeat. And I'm liking the socks. There's only one problem. And you can kind of tell when I hold it up like this. The front looks pretty straight. The back looks kind of... And because of the pattern, there's slip stitches in it. They don't give... It doesn't have as much give as I'd like. Like, it feels like it needs to be... A little bit more yarn needs to be done before you do the slip stitches. So, my solution to this problem now, which is actually from a Andrea Mowry's Wool and Honey Socks. She had you wrap the yarn a couple of times to make the extra long floats. Would it be a float? I don't know. To make sure you have the length that you need for the stretch. So I started doing that for the foot, and so far it's working out a bit better. I'll know as I finish the foot and as I go on whether or not it works, because I've only done 1 repeat, but it seems like it's a bit better. So that would be my only suggestion of the change for this thing. But otherwise, it looks so nice. I love the pattern on it. I think it looks very, very nice. The yarn that I'm using for this is Cozy Posy Cozy Posy Yarn Co. in the colorway, which I realized I forgot to actually mention last week. It is called here's a better way to do it. Just pull out the label. Okay, so Cozy Posy Yarn Co. in the colorway Tangerine-rama. Right there. So it's a gorgeous shade of orange. I really, really do like it. Don't mind me. I think allergies are starting to act up on me. I've been sneezing all day. But yeah, I am really liking the way that this one's turning out. I think it's, yeah, other than the not as much stretch for the slip stitches, but I did try it on and it does fit. It's just, it's going to look a bit shorter. That's the only thing is when I'm working on it. But I'm willing to try this again, but not right now. And that's just because I want these socks to be done so I can move on to my next socks. Like, I'm trying to do my rainbow socks. So I want orange to be done so I can work on red, which would be the next color. So that's everything for my works in progress. My next project is a new cast on, but I'm not sure about it. And it's only because in the 11 Stitches membership, they are doing a brioche along. I had already determined from way back, I'm not doing a brioche anything. I've already got brioche stuff that I still need to finish, and it says you have to do new ones. You can't bring in old projects. I'm not going to deal with it at all. Try and tell me how I was in a car ride. I turned to somebody and I said, what's your favorite color other than black? They're like, red. Good. And I took that idea and I decided I should knit them a hat. So put it this way, at the most I have to do is take back one row, but we'll have to see. So the pattern that I was thinking of doing is the Harlow hat by Andrea Mowry. I was basically looking for a fingering weight brioche hat. And I'm pretty certain pattern-wise, this is going to be great. My problem is the setup round, I'm getting myself a bit confused. And it could be because it says to do a tubular cast on. I did a long tail cast on with the main color. Then I switched over and followed the instructions for the second row. And it's not lining up the way that I'm expecting it to, because I did the first row. Hold on. This is what I have done so far. Not much. I did the first row and I did use my main color, which was my black. So now I'm supposed to switch over to my red, which was my contrasting color. But what I'm supposed to do with my red doesn't line up with what it's supposed to be. So I don't know where I got it wrong, and I got to figure out how to get it to work correctly. Yeah, that's the only thing. So the yarn that I'm using for this, I have no idea. The black yarn I know is from Mondim. The red one, I don't know. I picked it up from a project that I had been working on that I never finished, because I was basically just looking for a black yarn and a red yarn that was not attached to a project that I wanted to finish. So I pulled this out today, and I'm going to try and get this thing situated so that I can begin the brioching and not have any problems, because I know how to brioche. That's not the question. It's just every time I get to the part where you got to do the startup row, I get confused and I look at a video. So I said, okay, since this is an Andrea Mowry pattern, and if I've ever done brioche, I've always done it flat. So I said, since this is an Andrea Mowry pattern, I'm going to look at one of her videos. There's only one problem. She says it's for 2 color. For knitting in the round, she only uses 1 color. So then my question is, which color is it? Because if you use contrasting colors, that means it's easier to see. And people in the comments are like, oh, this was great. I don't know. I'm like, I can't tell which one is which, because I only see one ball of yarn. What color is it? Is it color A or color B? Am I getting myself confused or what? So once I get that figured out, then this will be done. It just won't be done as quickly as I had hoped. I was hoping to get this done by this weekend. It's probably not going to be the case with this. Not until I get this down, because I know once I get this part down, I'll be sailing until it's time to decrease. I just have to get to that point soon. We'll see. So that takes care of that for now. So that is pretty much all of my knitting that I've done in the past week, which is primarily the sweater, the socks, and now the Harlow hat. So what else has been happening for me? Let's see. On Friday, nope, after work, I went to Hamilton. I actually went clothes shopping because of going into the office this week. I picked up a couple of shirts. I felt like I got a really good deal on it, but it also included birthday money, so it really helped bring down the cost. That was nice. Otherwise, I went to my dad's house after practice like I usually do. And I found out my mom had told me before she probably wasn't going to be going up to church. I said, okay. I was planning on just going to take the bus to go back home. But then I found out my dad said he was coming back to Toronto. Not coming back to Toronto. He doesn't live in Toronto. I live in Toronto. He was coming out to Toronto. So I said, okay. Well, my mom said she's not coming to church. Can you take me home? Sure, no problem. So the next day, I get to church. And my aunt comes in with her fiance, and I'm just like, oh, you're here? Okay. I'm like, I could have asked her for a ride. And then not too long after church service had started, my brother, his wife, and his daughter came in. So I'm like sitting, I'm like, wow, I am like running in opportunities to, get home. Like there was no way I wasn't going to be able to get home. However, I decided to go home with my dad and have my dad take me home. And that's because he was already heading in the area. We were going to go see his friend Errol. It was going to be him, me, my brother RJ, the one who plays the bass guitar in pretty much every instrument, and my pastor's son. Honestly, he's like an extra little brother, because he was going along as well. So we all went in the car and we did the whole drive for there. And I decided I would love to go to hear the music, so let's go. That's why I went home with him. So that part was fun. I had a good time. I got to see people who I hadn't seen in a long time. Because for some of them, you literally have not seen them since before the pandemic. It's really been that long. So they're practicing, their praise and, it's actually a mixed praise and worship team, because they're having a convention at the beginning of July. So they're getting the team members of different praise and worship teams together to do praise and worship. I just went to enjoy myself and listen to the music. So that was great. And seeing how they do it, in a sense, kind of inspirational. Let's see, what else happened? On Saturday now, after I finished praise and worship, I went to go sit down. And my niece and my sister-in-law were sitting in the row behind me. And my brother was sitting in the row with me. And I turned to my niece. I had put on my mask and I said, hi, because I haven't seen her in like a couple of weeks. And then I turned back to go, pay attention to the front, like you should be doing in church. She comes up to me and taps me on my shoulder and goes, hi. And I'm there like, hi. So she, came to me, let me hold her. Apparently still recognized me, whether or not I was wearing my mask. So that was great. She sat down happily on my lap. At one point, she went over to one of my other brothers, my middle brother, RJ. She went over to him, happily played with him. I don't think my dad had even realized that they had arrived. So she goes and taps on my dad's shoulder and she's there like, hi. The smile that came up on my dad's face, he was so excited to see her. She actually sat pretty well considering it was church. Like she wasn't trying to run all over the place like she's done in previous visits. So she's doing pretty good. That child is just so smart. So after church was finished, usually the musicians are hanging around and playing a bit. So I picked up my niece, walked her up to the front, and I said, oh, over there on the drums, that's Nathan. Over there on the guitar, that's RJ. That's Uncle RJ. Over there on the piano is Chris. And she's just sitting down there like, as I'm telling her all of this information, like she's really absorbing it. I said, okay, let's watch Uncle RJ. She turns her head and she goes to go look at the drummer and said, she's more interested in the drum set than anything. I got the cutest picture of her sitting on my brother's lap with the regular size drumsticks in her hand. But she's like looking at like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with it. So he basically took her hands and played like a nice drum beat. And she just sitting there like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. So she looked like she was having a grand old time. She had, of course, church service was finished. So she walked up to the front. And if you saw the wall at the very front of the church, it says the name of our church. And which spells out Access Community Church. So I went to my niece and I said, okay, show me A. Because she spent most of the church service looking at my shirt going, O-P-E. She couldn't, I don't know if she just didn't notice that there was an H in front of it. So she just kept repeating the letters that she could see. So now that we're up at the front, I said, okay, show me an A. She looks all over it and she picks out the A from our name and points to the E and points to this letter and points to that letter. And I'm like sitting down there, I'm like, this girl, like, I was already impressed that she pretty much knew how to count from 1 to 10 quite early. By the time she was maybe about 1.5, probably well before, with the exception of the number 3, because as far as she was concerned, it did not exist until much later on in life. Now she's going through her alphabet. And then I found out when I had a discussion with my brother, apparently she's learning her colors, but she only remembers one right now, and it's red. If it's not red, she doesn't know what you're talking about. Which I think is absolutely hilarious. So I was really happy to see her, got to hug her and everything like that. After church, my brother, his wife, and my niece came over and visited my mom because my mom wasn't feeling well, but they came up to visit her, and my mom was absolutely ecstatic and was even more happy when she found out that they were going to come by on Mother's Day after she finished work. So let's see what else happened. We talked about that. So Sunday is Mother's Day. Doing anything for my mother is very difficult. Trying to ask her what she wants as a gift, it's called pay my bills. So last week I spent time going over, asking her if it's okay if I make her dinner for her birthday. Not for her birthday, for Mother's Day. She's like, okay. Because most people do breakfast. Can't do breakfast because she's leaving the house at 6 o'clock in the morning. There's no time to do breakfast then. So I ended up getting ready to cry over steamed fish and rice and peas. I didn't worry about the carrots and the broccoli because that part was easy. There was no problem with that. If it's salmon, I know what to do with salmon. I'm not worried about salmon. Rice in general, I'm not worried about it. My only problem with the rice and peas is looking over people's recipes and saying, that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. No, that doesn't make any sense. Because here's my question for anybody of Caribbean descent. If you're making rice and peas and they specifically tell you to use dried kidney beans, please tell me, why would it go in after the rice has already been in the pot? And there were no instructions as to cook it, to soak it, to do anything. So I'm like, but that doesn't make any sense. And just in case, I double checked with my dad and my stepmother, and they're like, shouldn't you be soaking the beans or something like that before they go in the pot? I was informed, yes, you should be doing that from the night before. I'm like, okay, just making sure. But then when I had asked my mom on Saturday night, she says she wasn't certain whether or not she had dried beans, but she definitely had canned. I reevaluated my searches and made sure I looked for it, and much easier to do with canned kidney beans, but it turned out okay. Like, I seasoned everything. I had the coconut and everything like that. I steamed the fish. I was so afraid that I would season it wrong. My mom said I did a very good job of it, and I'm there like, okay, at least I know I can feed you in case of anything. So the rice and peas, she explained to me as to why my rice didn't look as dark as it usually should, and that's because if I'd used dried ones, then it would have been a bit more brown for the rice and peas, but because I used canned ones, it doesn't turn out as dark. I'm like, okay, I'm not as concerned because now I know. So she liked it. She has leftovers, plenty of it, and I'm hoping that she'll continue eating it because I took one piece of fish and I just remembered why I just don't like steamed fish. It doesn't matter who makes it. I just don't like steamed fish. To me, fried fish has a much better texture. If it's like a canned fish, I can do canned fishes like tuna. That just goes on a sandwich as far as I'm concerned, or it goes into a salad. Canned salmon, you can break it up, put in some onions and tomatoes, and, you know, eat it like with anything else. That's fine, but that pretty much sums it up, unless it's a fish stick. I don't mind fish sticks. Jamaican fried fish, that's the best, but everything else, no. So actually, I think that is pretty much it. Yep. That's going to be everything for today. I'm going to sit down here and struggle with my brioche and get it started properly. And I'm going to go sit down and relax. All right? Thank you for spending your crafting time with me, and have a good day. Hope to see you again next week. I'm not certain about next week, but I will try. All right? Have a good day. Bye.